So I'm back with a Bongo steering rack update, and the new seals came in. Took a while because they're coming from Japan, and I had to deal with some custom stuff, but they did come in. So then the last step was getting the second seal that was located right here out. So for that, I made these two tools. This one is for applying the new seal. So this fits in my hydraulic press right there. And then this face is it's the exact diameter pretty much of the inside. And this is an old O-ring from it, so it fits in there really nicely. And then this was what I was gonna use to pull the seal out. It did not work. I did end up getting it out down there. And what ended up working, as you can see, it's tore up, but these skeleton oil seals have like a lot of metal in them, so they're not very flexible. And so what I had to do was I was able to get screwdrivers and a pick between the outside wall and the edge of it right here, and then pry it inward, like spinning the screwdriver to fold it in to make it a little thinner diameter, and then it just came sliding out this end. So now that that's all set, take this and clean it up inside and out, and then I'm ready to put the new seals back in. So yeah, I'll be back with that. So today I'm going to be trying to press in the new hydraulic seals for the Bongo Powersteering rack. These are called skeleton oil seals, and they can be tricky to put in because if you look at the old one over here, you can see it a little better. There's actually a metal ring all the way around it, inside of it, and on the walls, so they're very stiff O-rings. So because of that, I made this press thing, which I showed earlier, and that is in my hydraulic press. And this is surfaced to be perpendicular with this, so it should press it in nice and square. The reason it's so long is so that I can do the other seal as well, which is inside the actual power steering rack. But for now, I'm going to start with this one. Something that I did too to hopefully help make it a little easier is I was keeping this by the fire inside, so it was a little warm. To hopefully make it a little bigger so that this ring slides in a little easier. It's also good to make sure there's oil over all of this, and I'm going to be using some assembly lube to make it all smooth. Okay, so there's both oil seals put in, this one and the one way down in there. They both look good. And all else that came in the rebuild kit is a internal snap ring, which is what actually holds this in to this end. Right there, that's it. That snap ring sits in that groove and holds it in. Some shims, which actually space out the pinion gear going into the rack. And then the center hydraulic seal, the O-ring, which goes in this groove, which seals against this cylinder. And then there's one more O-ring in here, which I'm actually not quite sure where it goes. So I'll have to check over it again and see if there's any other O-rings to replace. But yeah, so I'm all set now to finish cleaning the rest of the parts and then put this rack back together and then put it back on the car.
Once I got all the parts clean, it was just a matter of assembling it in the reverse order of how I took it apart. This is putting that sealing O-ring on the end cap. Then this is the center hydraulic seal, which separates the two halves of the steering rack. Whenever you're putting together stuff like this, you always want to make sure you got plenty of grease on there. It's never good to have metal on metal, so this is greasing up the needle bearing at the end that the pinion gear goes into and the rack itself where the pinion gear meshes with. Applying some lubricant to the entire steering shaft so that it's a little easier when I insert it. Took a little bit of force to get it past that second skeleton oil seal, but once it got past, it was able to slide around really freely. Alright, this is the tensioning bolt, I guess, or not exactly sure what to call it, but essentially it uses that little rounded piece to apply pressure to the steering rack, and you want to be very careful you don't make this too tight, because it's just reducing the up and down or side to side slop in the rack, and if you make it too tight, it will actually impede the steering. It'll add too much resistance, so you just got to be careful about that. You want to snug but not super tight. This is that end cap that locks the rack piston in place and seals the other end. You just push it in like that, and then you get this snap ring, which fits right around it in a groove. These are the ball joints that are on either end of the power steering rack, and because I would have had a hard time getting new ones and I didn't think about it in advance, I'm simply re-greasing them. I just pulled the boot off, cleaned them pretty thoroughly, and I'm packing new grease into it. You want to make sure these have plenty of grease. Then you simply thread these onto the ends. Now I'm going to be putting the pinion gear back into it, and again you want to make sure everything's coated with grease. A little note I want to add, the reason I had to take this off, ideally you wouldn't want to take this off until you pull the rack out, but I actually had to take it out to get it out from in the car. The area was too tight, I would have had to remove more stuff than I wanted to. So you want to be careful that you line it up, because when I reinstalled this I was actually one tooth off and had to pull it back out and spin the gear one tooth to reinstall it to get the steering lined up. These shims are very important too. I'm just adding on the new ones, but I'm using the same number that came off of it, and I made sure they were the same thickness. Now I'm just doing the final tightening on that set bolt, and you can see here I actually make it a little too tight and back it off a bit, and then you tighten down that ring on top of it to lock that at the correct tension. Now I'm just snugging up the ball joints at the end, and as you'll see there's a little washer there. You actually fold over two of the tabs on that washer to help lock it in. Now I'm reinstalling the boots. I regret not getting new ones of these when I ordered the kit. These are the old ones I'm simply putting on. They weren't too damaged, but the one side definitely had a few pinholes in it. These rubber boots are one of those things that are usually pretty cheap, and if you're doing a similar repair yourself, it's definitely worth getting new ones. This is just a air hose that connects the two boots to help equalize the pressure between them. Now this is a cardboard template I made in the previous video when I was taking it apart, and that's just to get it close to the alignment that it was at. With the power steering rack fully assembled, I was ready to put it back onto the vehicle, and that was exactly the same as the removal, just backwards. Again, working in that really tight spot made it a little difficult. Right there was sliding the power steering rack back in, and this is getting it all bolted in place. And there we go, that's it fully put back together. I have not had any leaks from it or any problems, other than as I'd mentioned, when I first put it in, the pinion gear was just one gear tooth off, so you would hold the steering wheel about 90 degrees to the left to go straight, but I was able to simply pull just the pinion gear back off, rotate it, and put it back on. I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.